Okay, let's be real for a second. You've seen the photos, the clean girl aesthetic, the all-white minimalist loft, the floor-to-ceiling glass walls where everything is perfectly curated and nothing, literally nothing is out of place. It looks like a dream, right? But have you ever actually sat in a room like that for more than 20 minutes? There's this weird clinical chill that starts to creep in. It's not a temperature thing, it's a soul thing. You feel like you're a guest in your own life. Like if you move a coffee mug an inch to the left, you've committed a crime against architecture. Why is it that in 2026, our dream homes feel more like high-end sanitariums than actual places to live? We're obsessed with light, transparency, and openness, but we've forgotten something fundamental that philosophers figured out 70 years ago. We've built these massive, transparent stages, and now we're wondering why we feel so exposed and exhausted. It's the visibility trap. You paid $500,000 for a panopticon, and your clean aesthetic is actually just a form of self-surveillance. Think about the last time you felt truly, deeply relaxed. Was it in that sterile living room? Or was it when you were hiding under a weighted blanket, or sitting on the floor of a messy closet because it was the only place that felt closed? Today, we're going to find out why your soul is craving a dark corner, and how two dead philosophers might just save your sanity. We're living in a giant architectural render, and it's time to start scratching the paint. Enter Gaston Bachelard. This guy was a total legend. He was a French philosopher in the 50s who realized that the most important physics in the world wasn't about atoms or gravity. It was about how a childhood cupboard feels larger on the inside than the outside. He wrote this book called The Poetics of Space, and honestly, when I first read it, I had to put it down for an hour. It's that uncomfortable because it points out exactly what we're missing. Bachelard's big idea: the house is a psychic shell. It's not a machine for living, and it's definitely not an investment asset. It's an emotional organ. He says, the house shelters daydreaming, the house protects the dreamer, the house allows one to dream in peace. Think about that. If your home has no secret corners, your imagination has nowhere to hide and grow. We need what he calls nooks and crannies. Why? Because they are the physical anchors for our memories. You remember the attic of your grandmother's house because it was full of shadows and mystery. You won't remember your 2026 open plan loft because there's nowhere for a memory to stick. It's all just smooth. Bachelard argues that our souls need topophilia, a love of place that comes from feeling protected. He talks about how we instinctively look for the hut inside the palace. It's why kids build pillow forts. They're literally trying to create a psychic shell that the adult world hasn't sanitized yet. Bachelard reminds us that a house without a soul, it's just a vertical corridor for transit. But as adults, we've traded our forts for floor-to-ceiling glass. We've deleted the places where our subconscious actually feels safe enough to come out and play. Your brain needs to be invisible to function. Now, let's dial up the intensity with Martin Heidegger. He's the guy who gave us the ultimate reality check on what it means to actually be somewhere. He had this famous essay called Building Dwelling Thinking. His point: we do not dwell because we have built. We build because we already dwell, or at least we're supposed to. In 2026, we occupy boxes, but we don't dwell in them. Dwelling is a spiritual connection. It's when a space becomes an extension of your being, where you feel at home in the universe. But when we treat our houses like temporary pit stops or content backdrops for social media, we stay spiritually homeless. And here's the kicker: the more transparent and open we make our spaces, the more we fall into the transparency trap. Floor-to-ceiling windows turn your private life into a 24/7 performance. You're always on even when you're alone. That architectural exposure forces your mind into a state of constant visibility. It's the psychological equivalent of being under a permanent spotlight. There's no backstage anymore, no shadow pockets to recover in. There's a reason liminal spaces and the back rooms went viral. They tap into this collective horror of architecture that's designed for transit and visibility, rather than for actual human souls to rest in. We're building galleries for other people to look at, while we're starving for a nest to hide in. This is why you feel that clinical anxiety in a perfectly clean room. Your lizard brain is screaming, "I'm exposed. Any predator can see me." But we call it modern luxury. Heidegger would say we've lost the connection between earth, sky, and mortals because we've flattened everything into a manageable, visible, sterile surface. We've optimized the building, but we've forgotten how to inhabit it. Okay, so we've identified the prison. How do we build the escape hatch? This is the fun part. You don't need to sell your house and move into a cave. Though honestly, some days that sounds great. You just need to engage in some domestic rebellion. First, let's talk about the refuge nook. There's this thing called prospect refuge theory. Humans feel safest when they have a clear view of the room. That's the prospect, but their back and sides are physically protected. That's the refuge. Look at your living room. Is your sofa floating in the middle of a giant open space? That's a nightmare for your nervous system. Move a chair. Put your back to a solid wall. Create a little enclosure with plants or a bookshelf. Second, the pool of light rule. Kill the overhead LEDs. They are the enemy of dreaming. After 8 p.m., use only low-level lamps. You want to create islands of light surrounded by oceans of shadow. Shadows aren't scary. They're where your imagination lives. And finally, and I'm serious about this, the sacred junk drawer. You need one corner of your life that is never organized, never curated, and never photographed. It's an anchor for your subconscious. It's a place that says, a human lives here, not a brand. These aren't just decorating tips, they are tactical moves to reclaim your right to be invisible in a world that demands you stay seen. Think of it as psychic camouflage for the modern age. You're building a fortress of the mundane against the tyranny of the spectacular. We're seeing a massive rebellion against this in 2026. People are building shadow-filled cottages in the metaverse because their real apartments are too sterile. It's a rejection of the always-on smart home. Because here's the ultimate philosophical truth. Your home isn't a gallery for the world. It's a sanctuary for the parts of you that don't need to be seen. In an age of total digital visibility, the ultimate luxury isn't a better camera or a brighter screen. It's a right to be invisible. It's the ability to close a door and know that no one, not your followers, not your neighbors, not even the architecture itself, is watching you. Privacy isn't just about hiding secrets, it's about having the space to change your mind, to be messy, and to exist without a witness. So stop living in a museum. Build a nest. Turn off those clinical lights, find a corner that feels a little too small, and let yourself get lost in the shadows. Reclaim your right to dream in peace, because at the end of the day, when you close your eyes tonight, where is your soul going to hide if you've deleted all the hiding spots? I'm leaving you with that challenge. Go find your corner. I'll see you in the shadows.